Hello everyone! Thaime is going to start her presentation. Thaime is an entrepreneur coach with BizStarts, and she also has her own entrepreneurial ventures, including the farmhouse paint and sip, and also she has a new food truck, and I forgot the name already, my bad, but I think it's Chucha's Red Tacos, yes, and she'll be talking about that as well in her presentation. So here's Thaime, we're so happy she's here, so.
Thank you everyone, can you hear me? Yes. Good morning. Okay, so today we're going to talk about resourcing and financing in our business, okay? So I'm going to make it fun. I'm mainly going to use my business as my own journey to kind of explain some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm also a BizStart coach, so I might use a couple of examples from people that I work with. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm recently a new mom entrepreneur, meaning that I'm a mom and an entrepreneur, and I love it. I love running my business, and now having a baby is my favorite thing. And it's funny how running a business and running a household with a child looks very similar. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I'm from Venezuela. I came here when I was 18 years old. I just had a suitcase and did not know any English. And well, now it's been 18 years since I moved here, and it's been a transition. But I love it, and I'm glad that I'm here. I'm blessed. I give thanks every day for this opportunity to be in a country like the US. I don't know if you know this, but Venezuela is going through a lot of crisis right now, like political crisis. So that's why I feel blessed to be here and to have my own business. I'm an accountant by accident. I say sometimes that. And by accident, what I mean to say is I was pressured by my family. I've been an entrepreneur, I think, since I was very young, because I had different businesses as, you know, a younger girl. I sold donuts, ice cream. I mean, I used to do just about anything, but my mother kept insisting that I had to go to school, get a career, and become a professional. And so I did, to please her. I quit, you know, trying different businesses, and that's what I did for many years, and I worked for someone else. Now, I am thankful, though, that I went to school and I learned accounting and finances, because now that's mainly what I do in my business, and that's what I bring to the table. So, like I mentioned here, entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I have a list of businesses that I did. Some of them worked, some others didn't. And currently, I'm the owner of the Farmhouse Paint and Sip and Chucha's Red Tacos. The Farmhouse Paint and Sip is about 5 years old. I am a partner. I have a partner, and my partner is my husband. He's the vision person. I'm the one who makes it all happen. Looks at the numbers, looks if there's profitability, and just kind of, I put the structure around the business so that we can sustain the growth of our business. Chucha's it turned a year old on the 16th, September 16th. And we created this business as a response to COVID and the shutdown, because Farmhouse was being impacted greatly by COVID. So that was our response, and I'll tell you more about that business. But right now, that's the business that actually has taken off like crazy. I don't know, has anyone been to Chucha's Red Tacos yet? Okay, you have. Great. I hope you have had that great experience. We've been working really hard on making that experience wonderful. I also coach for BizStarts. I love working with entrepreneurs that have the idea and need the financial side. Like, the numbers are not their thing, and that's mainly what I do with BizStarts. And I love it. I have a group of entrepreneurs I work with, and this is exactly what we do. We work on the numbers and getting them paid. I also volunteer for WIBIC. For WIBIC, what I do the most is cost projection and pricing, and I also teach QuickBooks. And what I love to do is spend time with my family. That's my favorite time of, that I like to, what I love to do. I love CrossFit and also dancing. So I'm big into dancing. So that's a little bit about me. But today we're going to talk about, again, entrepreneurship, financing, and resources. So let's get started and let's discuss entrepreneurship, or how we go about thinking about business. And what I've noticed is that there's a faulty logic or thinking around entrepreneurship, that sometimes people think, well, I'm gonna come up with a cool idea, I'm gonna attract a bunch of money, I get a bunch of money, and then I'm gonna make a bunch of money. Sometimes this is true, but other times we can also be more resourceful and not necessarily need much to get our business started. So how would you describe entrepreneurship? So I would love to hear from you. There's no right or wrong answer. So what would you describe entrepreneurship as? Hard but rewarding, okay. A roller coaster, yes. What is? Building something with your own hands, yes. So all of these are correct, yes. We build things with our own hands. It is a roller coaster, but just to summarize, is the pursuit of an opportunity with the resources that are needed. So for example, somebody said using or doing something with our hands. When we create something with our hands and say, you know what, I could make a business out of this. So that's the first part of entrepreneurship. Finding an opportunity and going after that opportunity. And then finding a way to make it happen. So how would you pursue something if you have nothing? So if you have an idea, what is your first idea of obtaining those resources? Yes?
Finding out where to go look for them.
What is it?
Finding out where to go look for the resources.
Yes, find where to look for the resources. That's a great, yes. Sometimes there is places out there, right, that provide us with those resources. Like, okay, you can go over here and get help. What else?
Determining how you're going to make your profit.
Okay, yes, that's an important step that sometimes we don't think about when we start our business. But yes, profitability. So thinking about what the profit will be for the business. Okay, so that's where we're gonna dive in deep today. How can you get resources to fund your business? So the first thing though that I always tell my entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you talked to Brent about this already, is mindset. That's going to be the biggest asset that you have in your business. Why do I say that mindset is the biggest asset? Sometimes we can create a product or we can create service, but sometimes we make the mistake to get attached to that product or service. So here's my first example. The first business we thought about was the paint and sip, and we were going into our 5th year. Finally, everything was falling into place. And this, I mean, systems, processes, our team, just everything was really getting to a very nice, the projections for profitability were great, and then COVID happens, right? So one of the things that we had to do was detach ourselves for what, like, we didn't see ourselves like this is our business and this is what we do. We asked a different question and we said, what do we have right now so that we can survive this? Because if the business is closed for more than 6 months, which is the reserves that we had, we're not going to survive this. So the reserves gave us the peace of mind to focus on a new project and really look at everything else, and that's how to choose more. So it's very important to not let things outside of our environment affect us, so that we can clearly think. I mean, obviously, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I can't believe this. I mean, none of us could believe what was happening, right? But we did not spend too much time there. We took what we could online, and everything went, classes online, curbside pickup, but that was not enough. So we needed more. And that's when the other idea came about. So entrepreneur mindset is gonna be your biggest asset. After, product, money, anything, that's the first thing. You need to have the best attitude that you can, and really stay optimistic, especially during the hard times. Then behavior, so act on opportunity. If you have an opportunity, don't overthink it. Now this is a great thing, I do overthink things, but I have my partner, which in this case is my husband, and he is the opposite. So he helps me kind of like, okay, this is the idea, let's act on it right away. Perseverance or persevere, that's another thing that you want to have, not only the attitude, but also you want to behave this way. You want to leverage the resources. So one of the things that we asked ourselves was, okay, what do we have right now? And one of the things we had was space. We have a lot of space outside the building. And we said, okay, we're going to put a food truck outside. If the people cannot come in, then they can come outside and not be indoors. So that we leveraged that resource and utilized what we already had. And we also mitigated the risk. So mitigating the risk means like thinking about what's the worst that can happen and what's the best that can happen and finding ways to lessen that. So we thought ourselves, okay, what if the food truck doesn't work? Like we're gonna spend all this money building it because buying it was too expensive. So we said, okay, so what we're gonna do, we are going to, worst case scenario, we sell it and we're gonna recoup our investment in the truck because there is high demand for trucks right now. So we said, okay, that's our plan B. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out and we just sell this thing and we get our money back and we think about the next thing. The next thing, well, you have then other things that also influence your attitude and your behavior professionally, like what is it that your business is, understanding that. Are you a startup, or are you a corporate business, social, in the public sector? And then a lot of stuff that is gonna influence also your attitude and your behavior is your life, like your family, if you're involved with your church, community involvement. Part of my community involvement is doing this, working with WIBIC and coaching with BizStarts. Personal finances, having your personal finances dialed in is very important when you're running your business. That's why I always recommend that you make yourself part of payroll in your business or a salary. Because once your business or your personal finances are taken care of, you can then, with a clear mind, focus on your business and really make choices. Like recently we made choices like, do we take the profit out or do we reinvest? And we can do that with a peace of mind because we know all of our personal bills are taken care of. And so we're not acting out of desperation and just worrying like, oh, I need to do, this. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to clarify that part. So you said put yourself on payroll. So are you saying that any profit that comes in goes towards your bills so that you know what you have left that's actually profit?
So usually as a business, what you want to do, you want to create a list of your monthly bills as a business. And then in there, you want to put your salary. I would say at least $500 a week. I'm saying at least, in case that you have low bills like, electric, phone bill, insurance, and you want to have that already there. Once you have that list of your business monthly expenses, you need to figure out, okay, how many clients do I need to cover this cost? And if you get more, let's say you do the math and you say, well, I need 5 customers if you provide a service, for example. And so then with 5 customers, you cover your business expenses, your own salary. But if you get a 6th customer, then that's your profit. And again, you can decide to pay it to yourself or reinvest it in the business.
Okay.
But does that answer your question? Yeah, you want to make sure you are a monthly bill in your business. If you not make yourself a monthly bill in your business, it's gonna be forever before you can pay yourself. So prioritize that. That's one thing. So I worked for Johnson Controls as an accountant before I left to do my business with my husband, Jesus. And that was one thing I told him. I was like, if this business cannot afford the both of us, I cannot leave my job. So from the get-go, before we opened, we got on payroll. And out of the 5 years, the only payroll, the only time the business has not paid us was the first week of the shutdown. Because we said, okay, we don't need to get paid. We need to get paid our staff that we have commitment with. And so let's make sure that they're taken care of. And then we'll see. But that's the only time out of all these 5 years. So yes, make it a commitment right now. Just like you figure out how to buy product or how to pay, your bill, make your pay a priority as well. Because otherwise what's going to happen is, for personal things, you're going to take money out of the business, and then when you need to buy something for the business, you don't have the money to buy the business, so then you're going to have to put in a credit card. So it just turns into this thing that then becomes a headache in the business and personally.
So when you do that, do you do an owner's job, or do you like hourly, or like how?
So that depends on the structure of your business. Do find a CPA that you trust. A CPA usually is somebody that knows taxes. So there's a difference between CPAs, bookkeeper, and all of that. But if you're an LLC, only an LLC, you can do an owner's draw, and that's fine. So you can do $500. If you eventually elect to be a S Corp or a corporation, which is a hybrid, S Corp is a hybrid of LLC and corporation, then you do need to be on payroll and actually run payroll and have withholding and all of that. And for that, you will need help. And that usually kicks in when you make more than $50,000 in profit, because, between, I would say 40 and 50,000, because then the self-employment tax is too high, so then that's a tax strategy. But that's a great question. So you have those two options. But find someone that, start building your team. You eventually will need a CPA, a lawyer that helps you, depending on your business, like set up everything so that you're never, liable for things that, that could happen in your business. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Personal relationships, that's another thing I want to mention. It's important that you surround yourself also with people that are going to encourage you and help you in your business. I had my father that he thought I was crazy, and he was really like, how are you going to leave your job? This is just a big undertaking. This is so great. And I had to talk to him and say, okay, Dad, if you don't have anything good to say about my new entrepreneurship journey, then please don't say anything. I appreciate you. I love you. But, and I mean, we didn't fire anything, but I did communicate that to him, and he did stop. So just make sure that you have people that support you and that you form that team around you. So again, I'm not the creative person, so that's why I was like, oh, this could work. A partnership with my spouse could work. Well, dealing with life's challenges, that's another thing. That's why I'm touching on this before we go into the finances, because this is a very important part. So things are going to happen in your family. They have happened in mine. But you have to really, notice what you're creating in your business and try to stay positive. Personal things. I lost my microphone. You cannot hear me, right? I mean, you can hear me, right? I can talk a little
Very
louder.
good,
Okay.
very good.
So, managing the problems that you have personally, if somebody passes away in your family, just staying focused, like, okay, let me take the break that I need, but not let your business go. So, again, your life and what you decide to go as a business influences a lot your attitude and your behavior. Okay, so the process usually for entrepreneurs goes this way. You identify the opportunity, then you develop a concept around that opportunity. So the opportunity will be, there's a problem in the market and you're solving it. And there's usually two ways. It's either you're solving a pain or you're creating more pleasure. That's usually what business do. So then you develop your concept around that. I'm gonna solve this person's problem, or I'm gonna give them more pleasure. And then you assess what you need for your resources. You acquire the resources necessary, and then you implement and manage your business, and then grow and harvest. And believe it or not, you go through the same process. Once you're in growth and you're harvesting your business, more opportunities come. So this could be new products, new services. So the cycle repeats itself. Just in a different scale, but it does repeat. Okay. So my next question to you is, why do you think creativity is important? So who wants to tell me that? What is it?
Set you apart from other people.
Yes, set you apart from other people, yes.
So it helps you to attract the customers to,
Yeah, no, but helping attracting the customer, like, they need to be, there's so much noise right now in the market that if you're not creative to get people's attention, then I mean, you're fighting with customers right now, like, for customers right now out there, on Facebook, on anywhere, Instagram, anywhere you go, people are fighting for the attention, our attention. Okay, so yes, so exactly, so it's important to see an opportunity in coming up with an idea. So we've forgotten already, but things like Facebook was something created, right? Like this guy, actually he did it only for social interaction, and then he figured out a way of making it into a business. That was his biggest struggle. He was like, I have this big thing, I have so much data, birthdays, name, but I can't make money. So then he brought in this woman, I can't remember her name right now, and she said, well, you can sell the data, but you can definitely use the data because that's the resource you have. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna sell ads to businesses and put it in front of these people that we have the data. So that was a very clever way. I mean, he was like, oh, he thought of the idea, but he didn't think of how to monetize it. So he brought somebody else in, and together they came up with a creative way of making money. So in the rest of the process, you not only think about creativity for coming up with the idea, but you also have to come up with ways of funding or getting the resources or getting the money that you need. So I use Facebook as an example. That's how they did it to be able to get money and keep building the platform. But here are some ways that you can use. More conventional business use this. So bootstrapping, leverage, act like a guerrilla manner, and I'm going to explain what that is. Risk mitigation, and then taking action. So let's talk about bootstrapping first. So bootstrapping pretty much is not borrowing anybody's money and just trying to get the money. Yeah, pretty much that's it. Like not borrowing from anybody and trying to just do it all yourself. So how do you think, if you're bootstrapping and you're not borrowing from anyone, how can you then get the resources you need? Who would you go to? And there's no right or wrong.
I can hear you, but I can't hear you that good.
You cannot hear me so good? Oh, I'm so sorry. Is there a way we can get the microphone back on? It made a real funny sound on the side, so I don't know if it died. It says it's on. Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me? No.
No. You might just have to reconnect it. Is it a Bluetooth?
Oh, maybe it's my pocket. Oh, wait. Can you hear me now? Oh, it was my butt.
Start on all that conversation.
I know. Okay, now we know. Okay, so bootstrapping. Bootstrapping pretty much is when we don't borrow from a financial institution. We use the resources that we have. So what would that be? Or just give me some examples. I am going to show you exactly how you could bootstrap.
Bartering.
So having another job to fund the business. What did you say?
Bartering.
Borrowing. So in this case, we wouldn't borrow. Borrowing from whom?
Barter. Barter.
Borrowing. Okay, got it. Okay.
Or family and friends.
Family and friends, yes.
If you share, like bartering, like sharing, like my savings for your savings, or your personal savings.
Personal savings, yes. Or exchanging services as well.
Would like,
That's crowdfunding, and we're gonna go to that, yes. But here are some of the, I mean, you can see there's a big list of options. So withholding manager's salary, assignments in other business. I would say the ones at the top are a little more advanced. Because sometimes, like, you can have someone that works for you and you say, hey, I can, can you work this many days before I can pay you? Now, although that's a way that you can bootstrap, like get somebody to get started and working with you, I would say try to use that as your last resource. I think I've made a priority to always pay the people that work with us and for us.
Okay.
But that's a way. So yes, personal savings, doing your own accounting and website design could be an option too. And accounting, just if it's simple, but accounting, sometimes people get a little intimidated by it, but accounting is nothing more than accounting for things that come into your business and go out of your business, and just giving it a name. Like, this is sales, this is the phone, and that's pretty much what accounting is. It does get a little more involved as your business grows, but at the beginning, you can definitely do it. Website development. Right now, there is websites like Wix that is so easy to set up. You can literally have just one landing page and direct traffic to there, and it doesn't really take a lot of time or money. We'll use free resources in the internet. Sometimes if you have any questions at the beginning, when I was trying to set the legal piece of the business, because I couldn't afford a lawyer, I did utilize a lot of online information to come up with the documents that I needed for private event contracts and things like that. Now we are invested in having better documents, but now we are at that stage where we can pay a lawyer $4,000 to do this, which is, at that time, was just a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money right now, but at this point, we're like, well, it's a bigger liability now, or a risk, than not doing it correctly.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So, obtaining a lawyer for your business and you can't afford that, is that some type of bootstrapping you can do with the attorney, like, well, for so many hours and etc.?
You could, if you have something that, I think this thing might be out of battery. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beeping a little bit. Like yeah. Or not beeping, but you know what I mean? Like
Blinking.
clicking, or what is it?
Blinking.
Blinking, there you go. Not beeping, no, it's not making sound.
That was just a thought,
You could, like, it depends on your business. So let's say if you know a lawyer, and this person doesn't have a website, but you're a website developer, you could say, hey, I can build your website. Can you help me get my contract ready for my client? So you definitely can do
So
that.
basically, just have to be a need for both.
Exactly. Yes. There's gotta be a need.
Can I add to that? I'm actually an attorney, so they actually, there are some people who do pro bono services, like for small businesses, like to help them, get documents and stuff. So that's out there too.
You can reach out to Marquette. Marquette, they have like.
Yep.
And for what I understand, BizStarts does have a program that you can actually get access to all of this. You have access to lawyers and anything that has to do with marketing, all of that. So get in touch with, well, I'll check with Lily who you can get in touch with, but I know that you guys have access to all of this because the resources that have been put in this pot for entrepreneurs, yeah. Take advantage of it. Because it is not cheap. Okay, loans from friends and relatives. I do have to say that at the very beginning, the down payment was bigger than we thought, and I did have to go to family members. Or I should say, I told family members, and they were like, "We can help." And I was like, "Oh no," and then I was like, "Okay, yes, that's fine." And the good thing is that I didn't have the pressure because I didn't get like terms or anything, which I would say if you can get the specific terms on how you're gonna pay back and everything. But I didn't get that, but I was mindful to make sure I paid it back because I've always been the kind of person that if somebody, you know, in the past, the people that lend me money, I was like, that's a credit that I have with this person. I don't want to ruin it, you know, because you never know when you're gonna need it again. So I made sure that I paid that person right away. So you could definitely do that. That's a way of bootstrapping. And you also have, you could use, here it says use your credit card. Use it if you know you're going to be able to pay it within 30 days. So don't carry a balance. If, you know, don't get in debt if you don't know how you're going to pay it. But if you know, like, I need to purchase this, because I'm not gonna be able to fulfill this order or the service. As soon as then you get paid for that, pay your card. You could definitely do that, but do not say, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm desperate for this thing, I'm just gonna put it here and someday I'll pay it. Because it's just too expensive. The money, that money, credit card money is too expensive. It's at least 15%. Some people have 24, 27%, and that's too expensive of money to use it. So you'll have in your notes, you'll have this screenshot, so you have more ideas, but I just wanted to touch on some of them so you could have an idea of how you can bootstrap. So that would be one of the options. Now, I'll share with you my journey. So we did lease equipment, so our water heater, our fridge, all of that was a very expensive equipment to hold the drinks and all this stuff. So we got a lease, which they gave me a monthly payment that was a lot smaller than buying the whole thing. And it worked great. It worked great. And then at the end of the lease, you pay like an extra $1 and then they release all the rights to the property to you. So it's a wonderful thing and it really helped us because literally for my water heater, for 5 years, we paid like $76, which it was great. Instead of paying the full price, I think it was $5,000 or something like that. And at that time, that meant a lot of money. Again, loan for relatives and friends. In this case, it was one relative. Delayed payments to suppliers. So in my case, I do have inventory. So I negotiated with the liquor people because we have a bar in the Paint and Sip. And I negotiated with them and asked for 30 days. So one of them gave me 30 days to pay, which it means that I will sell the liquor, collect the money, and then pay them. So it gave me time. And then another one just gave me 15 days, and we're not with them anymore, but yeah.
That's what I was going to mention earlier is the idea of dropshipping if you do like retail.
Yes, dropshipping is big. Because it is expensive, but I mean, there's so much. You're not carrying inventory. So dropshipping is somebody that can order I mean, I've seen it more for t-shirts, but they can go order and then the provider handles everything, fulfills the order, does absolutely everything. You don't do anything, but it does have, it's pricey. Your margin on the product is not as much. But if you do the numbers and you think about, okay, what would it be to have it, you know, to store or have the space for this, then to mail it and actually go to the thing, you know, pay the ship, like all of that just becomes, you know, it's time. And that's another resource that you'll never get back. Money, you're gonna gain, you're gonna lose, but time, when it's gone, it's gone. So you wanna use it wisely. As a business owner, you wanna get very, you wanna be very cautious on how you use your time, especially as your business starts to grow. Okay, so again, I use resources from the internet. We did do our own accounting, and my husband, thank goodness, he knows about website development, so he did that. And then our personal savings. So I did have to go and use my personal savings. I did have a 401k at that time. I took a loan against it, which you repay in 5 years. And yeah, that's kind of how we got started from the ground. Now, what's interesting is that when we went into business, we not only wanted to start the business, we had to also renovate the space that we bought because it was in really bad shape. So just, you know, like think about, okay, what are the things that I have and how can I make it work, and does this make sense? The next one is leveraging. So for leveraging, you can use someone else's resources. You can use current resources in a non-conventional way. So thinking of like, okay, I have this, what are other ways I can utilize this? For example, we thought about, okay, we have space, we do have building, and this is a parking, how can we use that parking now for the new business? And we're like, oh, let's park a truck outside. Okay, stretching the resources and using one resource to obtain another. Another thing that we did, this was with the farmhouse that was leveraging, was that we had a platform on social media, and we also leveraged that to be able to take our business online. Not only that, but when we launched the other business, we leveraged the reach that we had on the other business to promote the other business. So it's not only thinking about things, tangible things, it's also thinking about things that are not tangible. Do you have an email list? Email list is one of the best things you can have. So yeah, social media is important to have followers and to have likes. But if you don't own or have, I shouldn't say own because I don't own anybody's email, but if I don't have your contact information and one day Facebook disappears, there goes my, you know, my pool of customers, my followers, everybody. So it's very important that you also find ways to get people's information and their data. So newsletters are very important. Okay, so leveraging. So now that I've explained that, what are ways that you think you can leverage in your business? What things can you leverage? I heard someone.
Resources from other, like entrepreneurs or other.
So what business do you have?
I would say, you asked me what resources?
What business do you have?
Oh, I'm starting, it's for women, basically women and children. Basically like introducing them to life again, and being reincarnated, or, you know, just not knowing certain things with life. I've got to get the words correct, but I was thinking in regards to my business as far as going to offer resources to women.
Offering resources for women and children.
Yes.
Okay. So what's one thing that you have right now that you can leverage to support your business?
The experience.
Okay, yes. Your experience, okay.
So it was other resources as well. Because
Yeah.
the resources that I want to give to women, I have as well, like clothing, personal items, learning how to cook again, things like that.
Wow, that's amazing. So for clothing, I mean, you have there, like you can leverage so many other people, even within your own circle of friends, you know, like having a drive and collecting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just kind of, you know, thinking of ideas. like if you're getting this for women, right?
We offer like women that have experienced domestic violence and coming out of being reincarnated and helping resources with their children and things like that. So, yeah, as far as going maybe to Goodwill or going to churches to see if anybody can donate anything.
Well, and also in churches, they have kitchens. So if you're looking to have a program where they can cook, can you leverage a church and their space and find someone who will donate their time and just kind of like, or you know, you can come up with your own recipe as well, you know, like, and just kind of get the, yeah, so that's exactly what it is, you know, leveraging. What are other resources, not only that you have available, but in your community, that you can make it happen. What you want to make it, you know, make happen for your business, you can then utilize those without driving a cost. I love it. I love it. Okay. Anybody else?
Just doing a lot of collaborating with other, well, for me, it would be with other artists.
Okay, so you're an artist?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so collaborating with other artists, maybe with other groups of artists too. So there's this group called Luna, Latinas Unidas in the Arts, and we recently had a festival called Fiesta Selena, which is a big event that we put together. And they rented a tent, and then they all came together or rented a space, and then they had all their pieces there, and they sold their pieces. But they do a bunch of stuff too, you know. But yeah, that's a great idea, collaborating with other artists, also doing activities with other artists, because I feel like you could also tap in each other's, not compete, because I don't think you're direct competitors, you're indirect, if you know, like you could exchange customers. So yeah, that's a perfect way. Yes?
I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what leverage means to what I want to do.
Okay.
So I'd like to be an inspirational speaker.
What is it?
Inspirational speaker.
Inspirational speaker, okay.
So it's kind of, we're kind of trying to figure out what leverage idea, do anybody have for me or
But who does the speaking? You do
I'm
it?
going to be doing the speaking, yeah.
Okay, so how do you leverage then to be able to get in front of people that you want to speak to, correct?
So are we, this is what's in my mind, is it like if I pick a subject, say for instance I want to teach people about the field and how to come out of the field, right? How, is it resources, is leverage, or is it just picking like subjects to?
No, the resources and how you get out there and get in front of the people that you are going to do business with you.
Right, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure
I
out.
mean, right when you like said that you want to speak or get in front of people, one of the places that you can go and start right now is your own social media.
Oh, okay.
So you could either, I mean, I would say use what you're doing the best right now at, but you can also use something like YouTube. If you want to just create a channel and just make it more professional, if you wanted to. But if you're like, no, I want to start with the people that I already know and that they follow me, so I'm going to start using my own Facebook or my own Instagram, and then you can pick little pieces, and perhaps then you say, okay, I'm going to do an event, an in-person event, or a virtual event, you can choose, and then you start inviting them, you know? So initially, they're going to kind of connect with you, interact with you, but this is a good way of getting in front of them and leveraging social media. I mean, it's such a powerful, you're not going to be able to only reach people locally, you can reach people around the world. Around the world, and it's not going to cost you anything unless you put money for ads. But that's a little more, you know, I mean, even Instagram will tell you like, oh, this post is really doing really good. Do you want to put $10? So eventually you could do that. We do it, but not too heavily. I mean, we have our own strategy, but yeah, before anything, just try it organically before you pay for ads. But yeah, that would be a good way.
And then also just there is a public speaking group that's here, and they all get together, I think like weekly, and then they go and they practice, and they all come together and really do public speaking, so you can bounce ideas with other people that do public speaking and be able to network that way.
Can I get that information from you later?
Yeah. I have to try to work.
Yeah, networking, finding Facebook groups that would be ideal of leveraging what's already out there.
And that's what I was gonna say, depending on who your target audience is, like, if you wanna talk to kids, you can go to like NPS, and leverage those, or if you wanna talk to women, you can go to organizations that already serve this type of women, and like see how you can get into what they're already like doing too.
Okay, so let's look at, so I have several options. So do it yourself, use free resources, borrow the resource, rent the resource. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to utilize and leverage what's already out there. So, I mean, for example, right here it says rent the resource. When we were under construction, we rented the parking lot to a limousine company for the month that we were under construction. So we were still generating income. We generated income from the minute one, although our buildings were not ready. So always try to think, okay, I'm in the process, but what are other ways that I can make this work right now for me? Okay, outsources, yeah, crowdfunding could be an option. That or somebody mentioned earlier.
Can you explain the give equity to?
Yes. Yeah, so giving equity is giving someone, so let's say you tell me, okay, let's go in business right now, and I'm gonna give you equity in the business. So that means I'm gonna own a percentage in your business. So you're gonna give me about 10% in the business. And yeah, so then we're partners, and you know, whatever the business is worth is not only profit. So profit sharing is different. Equity is the whole value of the company. So if I'm gonna get a piece of profit, I'm gonna get a piece, if you sell the business, I get a piece of what it costs to sell in the business. So technically, equity is two things, is anything that comes from profits plus what you've put in money, or minus the liabilities, minus what you owe. So that's what equity is. So if you were to say to me like, hey, I want your accounting services or your accounting expertise, I don't have money to give you right now, but I'm gonna give you this much equity. Who has watched here Shark Tank? Yes. Okay, you guys have. Okay, they are dangerous. I mean, they're like, yeah, I'm gonna borrow at $100,000, but I want this much equity in your business. Right. That's mostly what they want afterwards. Because after they get repay their money, because they're gonna get repay the money that they're lending, they still have a buy-in. And sometimes it's 3%, 5%. Sometimes they got really greedy and they're asking for 20%, which I think is too much. At that point, that person becomes controlling in the business. Like they have a say in what happens in the business after 20%. So yeah, so that becomes a little dangerous. But yeah, that's what equity is.
So I have a question. So kind of like a little devil's advocate. So is it kind of dangerous to bring in a partner that's not a husband, family member, or whatever, for whatever purpose? Because like you said, they come in on one end, but then they end up getting a part of the business or whatever?
You know, I feel that, so my mastermind, I have a mastermind of other business owners, and we get together every week and we talk about everything, you know, and we help each other. And they usually hate it. Like, they're like, no, don't do partnership, blah, blah, blah. And I've enjoyed my partnership, but here's the thing. Him and I don't have an option. We have to make it work. We have to really be nice to each other. We have to do our part because we have our marriage also. Exactly.
That's one thing, but somebody that's not related.
So I feel that you have to have a relationship that is similar to that, where you respect the relationship so much. It could be friendship. I mean, there's some friendships that are like that, right? Or a family member that you know that you have that commitment, that you're not gonna, but for the most part, you do want to avoid. But there's one thing, ownership is one thing, and profitability sharing is another thing. So if you're like, no, I want to have the control of my business, but I am willing to share the profitability, then you can do that. You say, okay, I'm gonna register the business to my name, And then the profits will be 50-50. You know what I mean? You can do that. You know what I hope I'm explaining that. Like on the legal papers, you're not together, but when it comes to splitting the business, what comes into the business, the profitability, then you do end up, 50-50, 30-70, whatever you want to do.
49-50.
Exactly. I mean, whatever you want to do, you could do that to get around that. Because the problem is ownership. If you have two people making the same decision, they have access to the bank accounts, they have, all of this, that's where it becomes a headache. Like, you have to be able to trust. Like, my husband doesn't worry about finances. I've never done this and I would never do this, but if I were to take $20,000 and just go and, party, like a rock star, he would never know, So, he'll never know. So, I would never do that. So, like, he knows I won't do that, so he trusts. But that's what you want. You want somebody that you can trust that will not do that behind your back.
So how much difference is that concept to if you already had the business and it's not a relative, just somebody you're thinking about going and, sharing the business, but you already had the business for some years and then you bring somebody else in. How does that work as far as profitability and ownership?
I think if I were you, I would just share the results of the business, which is profitability. Okay. The ownership will remain the same. Okay. You're ultimately the decision-making person. Okay. So if you think about Apple, so Steve Jobs, he was the original guy for this business. And then he started having people coming into the business and getting equity in the business and interest in the business. So what happened was that years later, like 10 years later, I might be wrong, I can't remember the timeline, but years later, they voted him out. And he was the founder, he was everything, and they fired him. They fired this guy, and yes, so that's what could happen as the business grows. Like at some point, you lost completely the control because you gave your equity up. And then that's it. I mean, later on, the business started declining because he was the vision person, he was the heart of the business. And this can happen. Sometimes operators, which in this case, I'm an operator, my husband is the creative side, operators sometimes get frustrated with the creators. And they're like, you are crazy, you're always changing, your demands are out there, and trust me, I go through this with my husband too. Like your project is just, and they get frustrated, and that's why they kick him out. They were like, this guy's just out there, but little that they realized was like, no, he is the heart, you just gotta be able to manage, what he wants to do.
This is good information. It's
yeah,
good information,
I'm glad.
Especially that equity piece. If you keep giving a little bit here and a little bit there before you realize it, you've given up your full share of the company.
Yeah, and you have the least equity in the least voting, right? Yeah. So you want to avoid that. And again, unless you have a very solid or a mutual understanding, like this has to work, we have no options, like him and I, like, we have to make it work, we're married, and we want to stay together, so then that works. But otherwise, I would say just share profitability or create some sort of bonus system where you reward the other person. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the guerrilla behavior, taking advantage of your surroundings and your environment. Again, we tapped when we did Chuchos, which is the food truck, we tapped into our fans and our database to be able to get that business off the ground. And it was crazy. It went viral. It was just madness, pure madness. Okay, so doing more with less. And I'm going to give you an example about that one. Using other people's resources. So if somebody has something that you can use without having to spend any money, that would be great. Non-conventional media. That has been a big thing for us, especially for our festivals. So media is so expensive. To get on the TV is ridiculous expensive. But if you give the media a good story that they will want to share, because they're always looking for a good story, then they will come to you and do it for free. So anytime we do the festivals, we have at least 3 different channels. So Telemundo, which is a Hispanic channel. I think it's CBS 58 and Fox 6. They come and they cover the event, and we don't pay 1 penny for this. So that's one way that you can. So create a story that is so good that they actually want to come and feature you on their social media and on TV and everywhere. Database marketing, that's again so important. We have about, for Farmhouse, we have about 5,000 people that are there. We always clean it though, so because we want people that want to be there and not pay for people that don't want to be there, that don't open our emails. This is big for us too. We can do promotions, we can do, anytime that we want to drive some sort of promo and sales, we go there. So that's what guerrilla behavior means. Finding ways to talk one-on-one, creative ways to influence word of mouth, I'm sorry. Word of mouth is really important for your business, and once you start getting business, you want to get people to give you reviews. So ask them, go on Google, review me. You know, I usually tell them, if I did a great job, give me 5 stars. If I didn't, please come to me and tell me how I can do it better next time. You know, so I try to encourage them not to give us bad reviews, but it happens, especially in the restaurant business. Ooh, it's either they hate us or they love us. The Farmhouse is a little different. It's more, you know, people are, for the most part, really happy. So, yes, so utilize things in your business to either get the word out there or expand your reach, because that's the main thing. You want to, so when you are in business, think about it as a funnel. Your business is like this. You have to drive enough traffic or get it in front of people so that they can then move through the funnel and eventually purchase and do business with you. It doesn't happen overnight, but you do have to make sure that you keep that top of funnel full. Okay. Some examples. Can you give me some examples in your business that you can use that guerrilla behavior?
I guess you could use the same advertising sources as another business in your area is doing, or try to catch some of their clientele as well, and their clients coming and going from that business, and using those kind of channels, like if they're having an event, piggybacking on it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, getting, so if there's some sort of event or a competitor, kind of get it in there so that you can also get exposed.
Wendy's always starting stuff with other companies and use Twitter to go back and forth with people, and then they'll throw out a sale or some kind of promotion from that.
Yes, that's a perfect way of doing it, yeah. Any other, yes?
I'm in the travel business, so I partner with a lot of different organizations that sell travel-related items.
Yes.
So sometimes they'll use my platform to sell a travel-related item, and then I'll get like a percentage of the commission. So things like that.
Yes, that works so good too. Yeah.
I was wondering about something like that. Like, okay, you know how people have a larger business card or flyer with several businesses on it? How do you do something like that? Like where each one helps one, basically.
What is it, I'm sorry?
Okay, sometimes you go, like if there's an event, just let's say a concert or something, there are other events or businesses that advertise on the same flyer as that concert would be, because they're generating that buzz from this up and coming event that's happening. How do you do something like that, like get your business on the back of that flyer?
So what we do, and I'm thinking that that's what they do for our festivals. So our festivals usually have, Frida Fest had 5,500 people attend, and then 3,500 for Fiesta Salina. So this was the second year we did it, and we do something similar, and not only on our flyer, but we do it on our website, on all our communications. But that's sponsors, actually. So we raise funds through a sponsorship So we look for businesses that want to get in front of our audience. So we know that the main people that drive, our ideal person for the festivals are women between 25 and 45 years old. They make more than $30,000 a year, and then they have at least one child, and they're usually sociable. Like they have friends and they do things, and so that's what we know. And we got all this analytics from Facebook. And so then when we go before the event, we sent out or reach out to different businesses that we know will benefit from getting in front of them. So one of our sponsors was American Family. We had, I can't even remember all of them. We had Paleteria Dayo, which is an ice cream place. We had Tri-City Bank. Actually, they were trying to get more in front of our vendors because we had 35 vendors that had their stuff there. So yes, that's how you get, so they sponsor, they pay to be part of the event, and then we turn around and with those funds, then we pay all of the entertainment. So we have live music almost all day, and dancers, and we just have a bunch of activity. But that's usually what happens in concerts. They sell the space, or, like when you go to the baseball game, Miller Park, and they have all that stuff, they have paid tons of money to be there because they know that, their audience is going to those places. Okay, so these are some of the examples on how you can use Guerrilla resources. One of them, and this is something I'm actually need to work on and I've been wanting to do with the designing team, is advertising on the ceiling or the walls. So if you have a brick and mortar, you can actually, that's a way of utilizing the resources you have right there and utilizing your walls to, have either words or your menu of what you do. So utilizing that is something that I've been wanting to do for sure. Yeah, you can use windows, tables. So sometimes when you see in a table that they have like a stand, I forgot what they call it right now, but you can see like the menu or they're promoting something that's coming up. So that's a way that you can make it happen too. Here they're using like donuts for a car repair shop. So sometimes people do have, depending on your business, things that people can interact with or like try your product. Now, here's how Harley does it. So I wanted to give you an example because it can be confused sometimes with the other things that we talked about, leveraging and bootstrapping. But up here in other people's ads, on the Super Bowl, when we see those ads, that's a way of Guerrilla resources. They are paying, however, for this. So just keep that in mind. The sponsorship of clubs. So this is a way of getting the name of your company, creative ways of getting it out there, not necessarily for free. Because if you're a sponsorship, you're paying a sponsorship for a club, you are paying for that. But you're getting, again, in front of your people in a very unconventional way. Biker gatherings, employees wear the clothing. We, all Chuchu's team, have to wear their hat and their shirt. Factory tours, market research, and also they have a strong support from their dealers. So that's how they do take advantage of the Guerrilla resources. Another thing that they've done that is very unique is creating a community. So if you can create a community around your product or service, this is going to help you big time. Actually, what's keeping Harley alive right now is the community that they have, because right now we're going through a transition with the generations that are not so much into biking, but they have such a strong community and that they've created that's why they're still in business. So I don't know how much longer they can do it unless they really find another strategy and adapt to the changes that are happening. So that's the community. We're trying to do the same for both of our businesses. Chucho seems to be the one where people gather more, like taco lovers, and that's what we call our community. And they love it. They love it. They identify with it, and they interact more, and okay. So 3 questions that you want to ask yourself to guide your efforts on how to fund your business. So what internal resources do you have that you're not fully utilizing right now? That's the first thing you want to ask. What things do I have that I'm not taking advantage of? Then how can you leverage relationships with people or companies in your network? So the network is very important. Who do you know? I just mentioned to you, I have a mastermind. That's a network of people that I did pay to join, but I love having access to them because anytime I have problems with HR related or scaling the business or anything like that, they are there for me. And these are people that, some of them are a few steps ahead of where I want to be. And some of are not, but you get what I mean. You know, like I'm always trying to leverage the access that I have to those people. And then what untapped or underutilized resources exist in the marketplace. So the fact that you're here, that's great. You're taking advantage of this resource. You are here, you're showing up, you're learning, you're consuming this content. Obviously you do have to act on it, but this is a way, one of the ways that you can do this, taking advantage of external resources. And now, this is not only outside of your business, but also inside of your business. What are other things that you have not done in your business that you can tap into? Any questions about this? Yes.
I make bags like toddlers, like I go to Walmart and I do their fabric. How would I get the attention of Walmart to like sell my bags inside? Or I come up with ideas for the fabric.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Your business has to be able to have, I don't know how big it is right now, but certain like demand already so that they can make sure that you can provide the quantities that they need. So for what I understand is, I am not sure how the process works, but if you were to apply to become a vendor for them, they're going to ask for financials, they're going to ask for all of this just to make sure that you are a provider that will be able to always source them. And then they will be negotiating with you what the price will be. So what I would say is, I mean, I don't know what stage in your business you are, but it's definitely like build up to it. I know that if you are a minority-owned business and you're certified, that's a great thing that they look at because they do need to meet a minimum percentage to be able to just do business. Any big businesses or government entities or agencies need to have this as well. So I will maybe, start there. How can you get certified? And once you go through that process, you can find more information on exactly like where do I send this to and all that information. I think there's also through BizStarts resources on how to do that, to obtain contracts through big companies, yeah. Any other question? Okay, so risk mitigation. This is something that we touched on a little bit, and it's your willingness to pursue actions that are pretty much making a decision knowing that you're taking a big risk. So if you're a business owner, if you started your business, already you took a big risk on because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen with your business. But that doesn't mean that you should be afraid of doing it. Actually, I think that's more empowering because you do have the power of making it succeed or not succeed. So it all depends, again, on your attitude, your behavior, but also your commitment towards your business. Now, what it is a smart thing to do, although you don't know what's going to happen, is to have a calculated risk. So just like I mentioned before, we didn't know what was going to happen. We were not even in the food business, but we said, okay, worst case scenario is this. We sell this truck and we move on to the next thing. Best case scenario, it does work and we are able to save our current business from the shutdown and now start a new business that could possibly take off. So that's a risk assessment. We were looking best and worst case scenario, and we're prepared for both. And then the last line says minimize downside rather than focusing on upside. So sometimes we can be over optimistic and say, oh, it's gonna work, there's no problem. Like right now, my husband is thinking like, we should create a drive-through, and we were talking to the bank. We called the bank and said, hey, this is what we're gonna do, this is what's gonna happen. And he said, we got it all figured out. And the guy from the bank was like, no, you haven't. Like, there's a lot that you still have to do. So just always having both sides, it just helps you. And it's more realistic than only thinking, no, this is already all good to go. It's almost a little irresponsible to only think on the one side. But if you cannot do that, because I do know some people can do that, they always see the positive, then try to find that person that is a little more realistic and can be, so I'm that person. I'm like, yeah, I agree with him. We need to sit down and think about it. Now, here's the thing. We tend to see risk in terms of loss. And I think that's the only mindset shift that needs to happen, is risk is not loss. Risk is simply, okay, we're taking on this risk, how can we minimize it? So probability of working times loss. And if we have this mindset, that's not good, because we're almost gonna act as if like, okay, like this is not, like I cannot take risk. I have to make sure everything is perfect. So there has to be a happy medium into I'm comfortable with risk or I'm not paying attention. I'm overwhelmed by risk. So find that middle point there. But risk is not bad. So how can you manage risk? So you might be thinking, okay, Thaime, you're saying, okay, risk is not bad, but what can I do about it? So one of the things is share the risk, which is what we did. So we think about a project, and he thinks the most positive way, I think the worst case scenario. Also, stage the risk, so what could happen. Isolate the risk, so find ways so that you minimize the risk in your business. And this is more in things that you can do in like even when you are in business already, there are many things that could happen. Somebody could fall on your property, some employee could get hurt. All of these things are things that you also have to think of. So again, isolate the problem. How can you have processes and procedures? How can you have things in place that isolate this problem and it prevents it before it happens? It's not that it's never going to happen, but you're doing everything you can so it doesn't. And then lessen the risk. So if you have this entryway that is very dangerous, then find a way to fix it so that somebody doesn't get hurt. Now, I'm thinking only on my business and how we see this, but think about yours. What are those things in your business that could be a risk that could cause a problem? It doesn't mean it's going to take you out of business, but it can cause a problem. So for example, right now, why are we thinking of a drive-through? So the food truck is doing just fine, right? But we have two things. We have the truck, winter comes, for our team, it gets really cold outside, although we have a main building where people eat. But, we're thinking of our team, something, if something happens outside, somebody could slip. So we're like, okay, we can take the truck inside, but if there is another shutdown, we're in the same situation we were before. We cannot have people inside. So this time around, we are going to bring it inside, but we're going to build a drive-through through so people still don't have to come inside of the building and we can operate on the outside. So we have this risk. I know, and I don't know if you think the same as me, but I know that this problem that we had with the shutdown, it's gonna happen again. I think this is gonna be the new way of, you know, how things are gonna happen. So I'm not gonna wait until it happens. I'm gonna plan from right now. It could happen 5, 10 years from now, but I'm gonna be prepared, and I'm not gonna be in the same situation I was the first time.
Is that called like creating your own narrative?
I'm sorry?
Is that like creating your own narrative, being prepared?
Yeah, you know, I think, yes, creating your narrative and also, you know, assessing the risk.
Yes.
So what are the things that threaten our business? Not only the one business, but now the second business we have. And that's something that you constantly have to be evaluating. And you have to be checking. Like what are things internally that is a risk and what are things externally and how we can best prepare. I mean, I could have never been prepared for what happened last year, right, in 2020. Meaning like preventing people coming in and all of that. The best way I could resolve that was having reserves and buying us time to think. Because if I would have been worried about payroll and all the little things, I would have not had the mind space to think about another strategy. I would have been too worried and too caught up over here. So that bought me time. Having reserves, that's another thing. If I could give you a tip, if you can get 3 months, maximum 6 months. After that, that's too much cash, sitting on too much cash. But if you have at least 3 months of your own personal bills and your business bills, then you're gonna be in a very good position. So if you're questioning, what do I do with my profit? Maybe you wanna fund your reserves right from the get-go. Because that will help you buy time in times of difficulty. And you will be able to think clearly about what you can do and you're not gonna be desperate. When we are desperate, that's when we make mistakes in our businesses. And it costs us. It's not that we can get out of it, but it costs us a lot of money. So you want to avoid it as much as possible. Okay, so here's some examples that you can also kind of deal with the risk. So lessen fixed costs. Fixed cost is indirect costs, so it's cost that has nothing to do with the sale, such as your phone bill, your rent, your insurance. Regardless of you're making money or you're not making money, you have to pay those things and you have it for your business. You want to carry inventory on consignment. That's another way to lessen the risk of just having too much inventory. So sometimes you can buy too much of something and it doesn't move. So maybe you want to lessen your risk by using it on consignment. Like you don't pay it until you sell the item. So you're lessening your investment as well. You're not putting all this money on this inventory. Outsourcing, using contractor labor, sales on commission, that's another way that you can lessen your risk as well. Hold less inventory, bundle products. So you have some ideas on how you can do it in your business. Lessen the risk. Now, in your business, because I know we all have different businesses here, how could you lessen the risk?
Talk to other people within your industry.
What is it?
Talk to people, other business owners within your industry to see what their experience or some of the risks that they've taken or have.
Yeah. But what risks do you have in your business and can we lessen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or we can assess what's a threat that you could have in your business.
Well, mine was the pandemic, obviously, because travel shut down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was a big one. So what will be, if we do go through something like that, what will be the plan then to lessen what
have
happens?
other sources of income. You know, like if the world shuts down, I'm not going to get the money for that travel. So, you know, maybe brainstorm other ways that I can make income just in case that happens again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, I mean, it's not related to the business, but at a personal level, that's definitely a strategy that could support you big time. Yeah.
My risk would be the lack of knowledge of
because I'm older and like there's so many different avenues to it, and so I would have to definitely invest in at least learning. Because I don't socialize. I love to be an inspirational speaker. I come from a different era. So now that we have social media, I would have to learn how to communicate better on those avenues. So right now it's a risk because I kind of tend to be like, I don't want to deal with, all of that, social stuff. So, but I have to now learn.
I don't think you'll have a problem communicating. Maybe utilizing the tool. But, so how can we reduce that risk? I mean, do we know anybody that has the expertise?
I have grandchildren that know way more about social media than I do.
That's why I'm saying, like, if we can bring in someone that loves to do this, and the younger kids, they go through it, like, they're so, I just hired a new manager, social media manager, and it's crazy how much faster I was able to onboard this person than other people that, because it's not only about age though. I think it's also about how much are they into it. Yeah. That's I think the key. Because the other people, I don't think that I've had that they're not. It's definitely the same age or around it. But the difference between the person I had before and this person is that this person loves it. She's up to like the new trends, the new songs. Reels are better than posts. Like she just knows all this stuff and she brings me things all the time. The person I had before, I literally had to hold hands. And if you looked at her social media, she would post like, once a month or something like that, where this other person is in it every day. So although she, wasn't like a social media person, I was like, you are my social media person. I can teach you, have the, the attitude, you understand it, that's all I need. The actual skill on how to do certain things or what we want, I will tell you that. I will give you the content. So I feel like that's what you need. You need to find somebody.
Oh, and I've never heard of such a thing. Like really, I can get somebody to actually, I can hire somebody that can actually do some of the things I want to do.
Yeah, you can hire this person. You can start as low as 5. I usually start them at 5 hours a week and then eventually get them to 10 hours a week. Right now, the person I have is remote. This person works in Spain. So just to give you a perspective, yeah.
You can get an intern too.
Okay, there you go.
That's another option. Yeah.
You can get an intern. I mean, there are options. And again, I got this person because I really liked it and proposed the project, and she was all over, and she's been doing an amazing job. Our social media has been just really, really, really good. The reach, because that's what I'm interested. How many people do we reach with our content? So yes, think about that. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
With my business, I take pre-orders, and then when I have new items coming in, I'll do like a poll to see if it's something that they're interested in, so that I'm not just taking my product.
So you do pre-order, right?
Yeah.
So you do a post asking people to...
Yes, like if I have, I'm looking at this, and then I'll be like, okay, well, how many people is interested in this? And then people will take it over, and I'll be like, yeah, get that, or whatever. If it's not a lot that I want to get in, I won't stock it.
Right. So what's the risk in your business? Have you thought about it? Too much product?
I have just sitting on inventory.
Yeah, so one thing you can do to lessen the risk is do seasons. So you launch things by season. So you'll say, okay, this season I'm launching this set of products. So you don't have to carry too much. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but you have the fall season, you have winter, you have, but you're only doing it's exclusive to that. It's not something that you carry all the time. You become exclusive with your product. So let's say you put that bottle, it gets a lot of traction, and you're like, okay, this is the fall edition of the water bottle, limited only. So there, not only you're creating like scarcity, which is something necessary to make a sale, like when people are like, wait, there's only limited quantity, I want one now. Yes, so you create the urgency for them to buy right away, and then you don't have all this inventory that you have to sit on, and you have your money tied up and space, and I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So try that. To lessen that risk, just do it by a special edition. The special edition for winter, special edition, you know, for spring. I mean, right now you have the holidays coming, so that could be a good way to kick it off. You know, I'm gonna have this season's products. Yes?
For me, I feel like we're almost in the same like scene of things, because I do have a business, or an art space. For me, like over the last year or so, with other artists, you know, becoming like home artists or new entrepreneurs, they kind of undercut the market when it came to like paint at home, paint and sip type situations. And so I am not sure how to navigate that risk, because I still like having overhead, but then when you have people doing like 10 canvases for $50, that is,
Yeah. No, that doesn't. I think, you know, competition you're always gonna have, and the best way is to find a way to be different. You know, that's the only way you can handle that risk. And why I'm saying that, and trust me, we've been through that. With Farmhouse, we've gone through it. Now, Farmhouse, I think our unique thing is, I mean, you do feel like you're in the middle of the country when you come in, you know, and it's rustic and it's, you know. So I think the people that come to us, they want the full experience. That's what they're looking for. For Chuchos, I mean, there's so many people selling tacos, you know, so we focus only on birria. That's all we do, and we're the only birria place in here. So you have to find that thing that is going to make you different. Yeah. Another thing, I was going to say another thing that, based on that, we've had people though, for example, the festivals, they try to do the exact same thing, I mean, identical. They almost hire even the same performers and everything. But we still feel like the strategy behind it and how we were trying to make it different, it didn't quite work for them as it did for us. So you're always gonna have competitors. People, if it's working, people are gonna imitate you. Like there's no, but that person probably hasn't even done the cost analysis. They're not gonna last long.
right.
If they're doing $50 for 10 canvases, they're not gonna last long. Because that's not, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
For the time, for, you know, the other supplies, we're talking about brushes, we're talking about, you know, the plates, the paint, everything, the easel, you know, everything. So, but I do want you to then to focus, what is that unique thing? Like, what is the one thing that people cannot get anywhere else? Yeah, you're a paint and sip, but what's different? What makes you different? And just keep drilling that in, or just make sure that that's in your messaging, so people don't get confused. Because I know people can do this. I mean, we even have artists sometimes that come paint with us, you know, and they can get the supplies very cheaply, but they're coming for a different reason, not only for that.
I've been a couple times.
You've been? Oh, God, I'm glad. And the new building or
The farmhouse.
Yeah. Well, we have a new building. We moved it to
There's the house, and then there's the one in the middle, and then there's like the bar one.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we went for tacos, and then we went in the middle.
Okay, so that's a new building. Yes. So Farmhouse used to be in the bigger building.
Okay.
But then, I mean, they barely opened our capacity in June to full capacity, and we were like, okay, we need to, you know, move to this smaller space. But well, thank you. See, there's a that even though you have all the supplies, you still come because there's something different. So definitely find that for you. How are you gonna make that? What is it that you're gonna offer differently? And just lean on into that. And yeah, don't pay attention only to see what they're doing good and what they're not doing good, the competitors, but don't spend too much on them. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna do a group activity, okay? So we're gonna divide in 2 groups, and I'm gonna give you one business and another business, and you guys are gonna work together on this project. So go ahead and pick your group. Let's take about 2 minutes to do that. So I see that there's a few chairs, so one group can move to this side and the other one to this side. So I'm thinking the couple of people from here can move over here. And then I'll assign the project.
So it's big groups?
Yes, it's big groups.
Oh,
yes.
half and half.
Half and half, yeah.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna need about like 4 or 5 people on this side. And as you're getting together, pick one leader. We need one leader who's gonna be the one speaking about what you guys are gonna do about this business. You guys can actually turn around if you want. I need about 3 people on this side.
If we have one more person on this side.
One more person. Okay, but then you might need to get a little closer to it over there. Yeah, I'm splitting it into 2.
Because there's 5 of us up here.
So you want us to go over here, or you want to? No, we like here. There's 2 groups. Right, side, left side.
So if you don't want to move anymore, that's fine, but we do need this side to be together and that side to be together. Okay, so this group will have Lee, so case study number 1. And we want to know, how does he start his business? You have the details right in here. So we want to use what we just discussed. So bootstrapping, just think about the different options on how Lee can start his business. And then number 2, you guys are gonna work with Mac, and you wanna tell me how should he start his business. You have 3 points kind of explaining like where he's at right now. So I'm gonna allow about, is 10 minutes too much? 5 minutes? 5 minutes? Okay, so let's do 5 minutes. And then we're gonna have the one person who's gonna talk and share with everybody how are you going to start Lee's and Mac's business.
We're 2, right? We're 2.
You're 2. Yes. So how can he start this business? Who's the lead for group number 1?
Me.
Okay.
All right. So we've got quite a list of things we think you can do.
Okay.
So the first is just borrow money from family and friends to get the items that he needs. Because he has a truck, he can use that to barter services maybe with somebody else. Like if he transports their lawnmowers, he can use them for his own personal business, who knows, something like that. But he can also use the truck just to make additional money somehow somewhere else, and then use the money from the trucking to start the lawnmower business. When we talk about like word of mouth, obviously he needs to start telling people that this is what he wants to do, and then maybe that'll help build his clientele to get some potential clients. Someone suggested he could become like a landscaper, kind of like learning the business, and then whoever he is working with, maybe have some opportunities for him, you know, once he's in the business for a while, or to branch off, I don't know, something like that. Offer to move for friends, so that's using a truck. Crowdfunding, he could raise money to get the lawnmower and the items that he needs. And then we also talked about, he could do like a seasonal membership since he doesn't have money. So he could charge the membership up front, and then whenever they need lawn mowing, they'd already be paid and he just go do it. We told him to go find BizStarts. So,
Yes.
and then offer like discounts, like kind of like a punch card. If I mow 5 times, you get 1 free, but you would get the money like up front for the discount program. So, yeah.
Perfect. Great job, you guys. Thank you so much. Yes, so that means getting very resourceful, right? Like, this is what I got. I'm gonna start with this. Okay. Matt wants to start a local moving business. So he wants to start with his 2 brothers. They work for the college, or 2 college brothers moving, but they haven't found work. Each brother has 2 kids, and 2 brothers are on food stamps. Neither of the 3 brothers has a truck. So what does group number 2 came up with?
So we had came up with a couple ideas as well, and the first one was the problem, finding the problem and creating a solution. And even with him not having a truck, we decided that renting a truck will be feasible, and leasing the equipment as well before purchasing it. We also was in the process of that, creating a niche, creating different components that would assist him into the moving items and things like that. We also did hanging in the area to promote his business. Say if he's renting a truck from a renting company, staying in that area, offering the services to people that may need them. Marketing, yes. So and after that, promoting, marketing, and networking with other people in regards to promoting his business or their business. If anybody else want to add?
Yeah, because we talked about the components, so now that we are leasing a truck, now we're gonna offer services on moving, but we're not just gonna move you, we're gonna also put another entity, we will pack for you too, which will be another source of income, which will be separate from us moving your stuff. And then the children that are involved, we didn't know if they were little children, if they're boys or girls, but we also can incorporate them into the business to help us get the job done a little faster.
Is this business? Oh, I'm not moving. I was gonna say, is this a business in business?
Right, we need that.
Well, the packing thing sounds very attractive because that's so painful to pack stuff. But yeah. Okay, thank you, you guys. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move to part 2, and this is financing. I'm so glad we talked about equity already, because here's a little line that is on this part of the presentation, and it says, the wise man understands equity, the small man understands only profits. So profits, remember, is only one portion. But equity is the overall of the business, how much the business is worth, which is more than the profit. Okay. So here are some of the basics for funding. There is, we're going to talk about seed versus venture capital, debt versus equity capital. work with venture capital firms, private offering, IPO, microcredit, crowdfunding, and then rotating credits. They're ROS guys called. I can explain more about that, but it's when I was doing the research, it was interesting that this even came up, so I put it in here. But pretty much this is how it works. So you had seed and venture. So usually these are things that you start, and we're talking right now about the financing part. So the first part was resources that we could use, and here is that if you do need funding. So it can be funded, your business idea can be funded by your own money, or you can have friends and family, but also partners. Partners can come in. For debt and equity. So the difference between debt and equity is what we were talking before. Debt is actually when you take on money, you borrow money, or equity is when somebody comes in with certain percentage and gets equity in the business. So you don't owe them, they bought into the business. So that's the difference. I can either say, okay, I'm gonna borrow you this money, pay me back, or I'm gonna give you this money and this is what I'm invested in the business. Therefore, I'm now part owner. So usually you can get debt or equity funds from a commercial bank, SBA, or angel investors. For formal and informal, you have venture capital firms, which is pretty much a group of people that come together and have this funds, and then they choose projects that they want to do with a return. Private offering, and then we have the passive, which is microfinance and crowdfunding. So usually there is a need from both sides when you're lending money. So the user and the source. So the entrepreneur has a degree of control. They also know the amount that it needs to be financed, and they know the goals of the company. The finance source, which is whoever is borrowing this money, they need a return on investment. So they're letting you use this money, so they need something back. They also want to know how long is this going to go for, and how are you planning to pay them back. They also decide how much control they're going to have. For example, when we were doing some things for Farmhouse, Wibig did want to be, have access to all of the assets, or be on all of the assets of the business. Perception of the risk involved. They also want to understand, okay, what is the risk that we're taking here, and then what kind of protection do I have? Which is what Wibig was doing. If you guys go under, we're going to go after your assets, personally and the business. They even had the rights on our cars and things like that. But that's what it was needed. Now, the stages of venture financing. So this usually happens in the early stages of your business idea. It also helps for expansion and development and aggressive growth. So, like I said, we went for Wibig, or to Wibig, to get the farmhouse all renovated and ready to go. So that was an expansion and development that we were doing in the business. And sometimes there is aggressive growth in a business, and people need to acquire more assets to be able to keep up with the demand. So that's where that kicks into. But I would say, just even when you're having a large demand, just try to bootstrap as much as you can before you get into more debt, especially early on in the business. So financing needs at various stages of your business development. So pre-startup, the things that you will need is a prototype development, site acquisition, so where is your business going to be at, the business plan preparation, the research and development, and the market research. So that's the first stage. And usually here is where I'm going to say bootstrap. You should be able to do all of this before getting financing. The the other areas over here, when you get over here and startup, post-startup, and then growth, that's where you want to consider bringing a lending company in. But in the first one, try to do it yourself. So we're talking about business plan. Do your business plan. Find the help to do the business plan without spending money. I know people that before they get to the startup phase, they've already spent thousands of dollars getting a fancy business plan. And a business plan, right at the from the get-go, should be something that you have an idea of thinking of the different things of your business. You want to know what you're selling, who are you selling it to, what is in the market already. So when you look at competitors, you're looking for two things. You're looking, what are they doing right that people already like, and what words people are using to describe that, and then what are they leaving opportunity on the table. And that's where you come in. That's when you're gonna say, oh, we're similar in this, but this is where I'm gonna lean in and be different. So again, we sell, there's a lot of taco places here in Milwaukee, but we sell the one specific. We noticed there's no birria places here, and we're gonna do it. And we became the best, and we continue to work to be the best that we can, so competitors have a hard time. But all of that we didn't pay for, we did it ourselves. Market research, business preparation, and then finding the place. There's people that pay other people to find the location, so try to find your location if possible. But then when you get into inventory, plant and equipment, the grand opening, advertising, that's when you brought in Webix, so that's where I would say consider it. But if at this point you still can do it your own, like let's say you have a service-based business, like travel agency, then don't bother to get more money, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. Don't bother to borrow money because that's just a liability that you will be creating for yourself. Then after the startup, then you have other challenges. And this could be a cycle of either a year or two. For Farmhouse, it was a cycle of 2 years. For Chuchos, it's been a cycle of 1 year, where the business starts shaping up and then you are shifting your focus from let me get sales, let me get customers, to actually be like, okay, let me continue to have sales stabilize and let me get the team that I need to fulfill the demand. And here I still would say try to use and fund yourself, but sometimes you are going to need to borrow some money. And then when you go to growth, here for sure you do want to use someone else. Because here's the thing, we're thinking about this drive-through, and most of all the development we've done, we've funded it ourselves with profits. But we've gotten to the point where we say, do we want to keep building our reserves to now support this new business? Or for the, for the Chuchos? Or do we bring in now, we borrow, we use somebody else's money cheaper, at a cheaper rate, and we build this drive-through without, going through our cash. So that approach is a little different. We could pay for it, but right now, cash is gold, and actually that's always gonna be the case. You want cash on hand. So we're gonna leverage now someone else, and we're in the process right now to do this. So think about it, how does that look for your business? At what point you're gonna say, yes, I have the money, but it's cheaper for me right now to use somebody else's money than my own. So how much do you need? That's a question that you want to ask yourself to also get an idea, because I can tell you, okay, here are the stages, but you also need to know how much you need. So if you need less than $20,000, I would say try to find this $20,000 on your own to start your business. It's not worth it to get in debt or anything like that. Just try to get the money. And here are some options that you can. In here it does say Sba Micro Loans. They do have small loans. That's one resource, but if you can avoid it, that would be great. Now, if you are in that thing that I just mentioned, where you want to protect your cash, maintain your liquidity, then consider using somebody else's money, but knowing that you can pay it if you need it. Now, if we're talking between $20,000 to $100,000, then here are some other options. You can ask for a bank loan. Banks are not as friendly. I remember when for the farmhouse, we tried twice, 2 different banks, and they didn't even call us. even take our calls after we submit our business plan. So try to think of organizations such as, I mean, I keep thinking of Wibit because they work so great for us, but I know that there are other places that they have programs to help you with your business. Do we know what Wibit is? Have you guys heard of it? Women Wisconsin Corporation? I ate some pieces there. But yeah, just know that they're amazing. They work with you. They can help you also with the business plan. So you have two amazing organizations like BizStarts and Wibit that you can really take advantage of to get help or get funding or anything that you need. Bank line of credit, that could work too. Home equity loans. So here's a list of what things you can do if you need between $20,000 to $100,000. Now between the $100,000 to $1 million, here you also have more, but you can see that now you have specific programs from SBA, and you also can tap into angel investors. Strategic partners are also a great way, and usually they're looking for these opportunities. Strategic partners are those people that are high earners that need to put money somewhere to be able to reduce their tax liability. And then also private placement, that's a group of people that come together and they kind of choose where the funds of their funding will go. 1 million, venture capital, private placement, and strategic partners. So you can see that after $1 million, it really reduces just only to these people over here. And then we have public offering and venture capital for more than, this was supposed to be 10 million, I believe, because they both say 1 million.
Yeah.
I have to correct that. So things as sometimes raising funds, that's something that you can do also online for your business. I know I did that for someone that they had, it was crowdfunding, and we borrow money and then little by little she's been paying it. So how much time do you have? That's another thing you want to consider. So if you need money right now, so we already talked about the stage of your business, we also talked about how much you need it, but also how soon do you need the money. So if you need the money right now, these are some of the resources that you can use. Existing line of credit. This is usually if you have a home and if you have a line of credit, you could utilize it, but just know, and this is very low interest, but again, only if you know that you can pay it back within a short period of time. Friends and family, and then credit cards. Same thing for credit cards. Use it if you have to, like, let's say, buy that one shipment, but you know that it's gonna get paid within 30 days. If you're not gonna borrow today, but you're gonna borrow soon, or you need the money soon, I'm so sorry. These are the other options. Bank line of credit, loan, SBA, friends, home equity loan, equipment leasing, customer or supplier financing, that you can definitely do as well. So you can finance something for a customer, or you can ask your suppliers to help you with that. And then asset receivable funding. We'll leave this one for next time to explain this one. If you've got months, and just because how lengthy the process is anyways, these are some of the options. So strategic partners, venture capital, private placement, IPO, SBIC. So those are some of the options that you have. If you need this quarter, you can see that these ones are also pretty similar. So bottom line is, if you need money right away, look at things that you have immediately available to you. But if you have more than a month or 3 months, even a year, are the options that you want to look for. Now, when you borrow from friends and family, it's low risk. You have a strong relationship with this person, and you have the ability to make it work, the business. It's the least expensive, and you have the more control because you're not giving up equity, you're not giving up anything in your business. And it's more patient. This person is more patient. So the person that borrowed money to me, they didn't give me any details, so I didn't have the pressure to pay them right away within the year or 2 years. I paid it when we were able to pay back. Some of the cons of this could be ownership could have a negative effect on employees. It might cause tension, so if you're not paying this person, then this person might not like it. Well, you wouldn't like it either, right? Lender would not have much of the details, and then of how everything is going to happen, and also this person doesn't bring anything to the table. So that's the only con, but I guess what you're looking is this person to borrow, not necessarily to bring ideas or do anything in the business. For commercial banks, what they're looking is for the 5 C's of lending. So they want to know the character of the business, the capacity, so what experience do you have in the industry, how much money are you needing, so the capital, what collateral do you have, what assets that can come after if you default payment, and also the conditions. They are, unlike friends and family, they're very into like, I want to know all the details, how I'm going to get this money back. The good thing is that you can get the money fairly quickly if you provide all the information, and they, yeah, so then they can go after smaller or short-term assets that you might have against the loan. Now, the bad thing is because they take smaller assets, you are going to have to borrow against your own personal assets, not only the business, but your own stuff. So your cars, your savings, you know, so that's the risk there. They do check out your track record, and you have to have at least 2 years of operational profitability, and they do want to see profits. Sometimes I see people that they just report losses and losses and losses, and they try their hardest to do this, and it's not a good practice if you're looking to borrow money at some point, because they do want to see that you're profitable and that you can pay them back. Okay, so for individual investors, what they're looking for is new ventures, new businesses, so not necessarily existing, also that has good profitability. They're looking for at least in 5 years to get 3 to 10 times their investment, and good amounts to large numbers of ventures. So it could be anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000. Now, the pro is that you don't lose as much control as when you do venture capital funding. Now, the con is that typically it's less money, so you don't get as much money, and it might be harder to sell the idea as well. Yeah, so angels usually it's a network, like you have to know people that connect you with the angel investors and really get you in kind of like that group of people, and then that's when they will be interested in investing. So crowdfunding, there's over 800 platforms. There's different ways that you can raise money. So we have GoFundMe, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Typically, they take about 5% of the fee, and you provide samples. Now, the pro is you have no debt incurred or equity given up. So there's none of that. When you have a good track record, it could be a good source to get the money, and you can raise anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000 fairly quickly. The con is that success might require that you bring your own network or database of contacts. So friends, family, just the people around you. And usually you set a goal and you must achieve it to be able to raise the funds that you need. Customer funding. This is very unique depending on what kind of business you have, but you want pay in advance model. So if you're a consultant, architect, you can do that. You can say, so I don't know if you ever heard, but sometimes there is a retainer for some services, although they haven't used that retainer money, like they're not, like that's not, you spend it. It's just that you'll have access to that person and their hour is this much, let's say $100, and they have a retainer of $500, so you have up to 500 hours and you just keep that there. But the point is, they're charging you up front and they're holding that money in there for you, like you're prepaying for those services. Also, Matchmaker Models. This one is a brilliant, and it actually disrupted the industry. Disruption is when it just changes the dynamics of how we used to operate or live. And in this case, like Airbnb is a perfect example. So Airbnb, you are paying ahead of time to go to stay to this person's house. So this person, by the time you leave, they got the money in their bank account. So you're not spending any money. So if you're renting the place and you have to replace a couple of things, you're gonna get the money and be able to change the pillows or do whatever it is that you need to do there. Subscription models. So Netflix is another amazing thing. So Netflix completely took out blockbusters out of the, like it crushed them. Now 2 things happened there. Blockbuster was offered 3 times to get bought by, or for them to buy Netflix. But they were so like with their product that they didn't see further, and they're like, nope, we're good at what we do. And little did they know, Netflix took them out of the game. So the other model, I mean, they did it right so many ways. With them, you had, I can't remember if it was like you had a membership or you had to pay for movie, but bottom line is Netflix, you just pay ahead of time and you have a membership and it's a recurring income. And I have Netflix, and honestly, it's been so busy with the festivals that we just finished. I haven't really watched TV. If I watch TV twice or Netflix twice this month, it's a lot, but I'm still paying that membership. So that's a great way. So if you're a business, you can think of ways, how can the customer prepay for my services? That would be an amazing, or create some sort of membership or create something that they're committed in a longer term. That would be great. Scarcity models. So these are just what we were talking back there, of having seasons, of certain products or limited edition. That's something that you can also create, because you're creating scarcity, and you can have the pre-order. So you can say pre-order because I just have 10 of these or 20 of this. And then service to product models. Again, Microsoft changed the game, they also you buy a whole year and you have access to their products.
Would gift cards fall under that?
Gift cards are so good, you guys. I can't even, except for if you have retail, I highly recommend it. So I would say out of our retail sales for gift cards, they only at 20% redeems it. So, I mean, we still have the debt, or not the debt, but well, yeah, let's call it a debt because we owe it, right? It's outstanding. But I'm talking that we've been in business for 5 years, the farmhouse, and only 20% in all of these years has redeemed their card. And the other money, I mean, it is sitting there, but I mean, it's still, And in our business, you can sell depending on the season. We could close anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 only in gift cards in a year. So, and if only 20% redeems it, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing because they lose it. People forget, like there's so much there. I do have one gift card for manicure and pedicure that I misplaced it, and I'm not gonna go now. and it was a $70 gift card. So it happens to other people too. So these people just kept $70. So it's a great thing if you have a business that they can revive. Okay, so venture capital firms, their return on investment has to be pretty high for them to buy into your business. And this is more for businesses that are over $1 million. They are looking for a strong management team, so they want to make sure that your team is there and you're solid. Experiences, history of success. They also want to see that you grew fast during the first part of your business. Product market opportunity, there's more opportunity in the market. The companies can go public. They're very interested that eventually you can go public. And so private means that you own it, all profits are yours, you're only people that you let in. When you go public, you sell pieces of equity. That's what happens in the market, right? Pieces of equity of that business. So you own little pieces of that business. So like you can invest. Like right now, I think I'm invested in Tesla. So I have little money in there. Like I own a little bit of it. So that's what they're looking, that you go public and people can buy. So the pro is that they usually have experience with growing company, so they can really help you get it up there to go public. They also have support, like they have the team that can support you to get there as well. And you can raise money from other places as well. Now, the concept is that it is sophisticated, it's much more advanced. They might take control, and they tend to specialize in certain industries. So the fact that they're experienced, it doesn't really mean that it's going to work for your industry. Okay, any questions? We've gotten to the end of my presentation, and now I take questions about your businesses or anything that you have. Oh, yes. Over here, okay.
So with your food truck, you guys do the manual labor or you pay contractors?
I'm sorry?
To fix up your food truck, you guys do it yourself or you pay contractors?
We did it. The first one we did. So at this point we have 4. They all are used for different purposes. But the first one we did build it. So we had 1 employee that worked actually for the studio. But we're don't have as much work there. Come work here with us. And my husband knows a lot about construction. He knows a lot about a lot of stuff. But yeah. So the first one, yeah, we did it ourselves.
Okay, so that was gonna be my next question. So your husband was the one who did everything, so he basically put it all.
Yeah, he is gifted that way, that he loves building stuff. Like some guys are into mechanics. He's been into construction, so this was something that he could do. Yeah. But the next ones we did hire someone else just for time. We just needed somebody completely focused on that, and he has many other things he needs to oversee. So yeah.
What was the name of the company you guys used?
Oh, we hire our own contractors. So we have a full-time contractor now that does pretty much any project. Yeah, like for Fiesta Salina, we had to build a stage. So this person built it. So yeah, it's not a company necessarily.
So do they do outside work outside of you guys or just?
No, just for us right now. Yeah, we were able to hire someone because we do so many projects that we were able to hire. It's 2 guys, and then they do all the construction projects related. Because there's always a lot going on. But I would do a Google search, and I did have to go, when we were shopping, I did have to go to Madison, I think it was, or Beloit, I think it was Beloit. And we saw a truck, and it was about $40,000, and that's when my husband said, I can do it for 20. He's like, we don't need to build it. I mean, we don't need to buy it. He's like, but it's gonna take longer, but I can do it for 20. So we were like, okay, let's do it then for 20, you know. It did take 3 months though, where we could have just bought the one, you know. But we didn't know if it was gonna work or not, so going for 40,000 just seemed too much. You're welcome.
Did you just step away from your career? How long did it take for you to determine that you needed to leave your career and invest all your time and finances into your business?
You know, it's a great question because it actually happened in a little bit of an accident too. You know, I was very committed to my career, but when I say to my husband, okay, yes, I'm going to help you with this business, but I'll do only the admin. During that time, we were in construction, and the company I was working for decided to move our function, our accounting function, to Europe. So I took the decision then. You know, I was like, wait, I've been so committed to this company, working crazy hours. I mean, it's not that I don't work crazy hours now, but I feel like now I have more flexibility. But then it was just so crazy. I was like, literally, I lived to work, you know. And then that happened, and I said, you know what? Anybody needs an accountant, you know. So I said, again, I assessed the risk. I said, I'm gonna get on payroll, and I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna make the switch. And worst case scenario, I'll come back. So they took the new business overseas, but my manager had reached out and said, I can move you somewhere else, I can do, and I said, no, I'm gonna do this first, and if it doesn't work, I said, would you hire me back? And he was like, yes, and I was like, okay, so my old employer will hire me back, or I could go on my own and I love more doing bookkeeping than actual taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy more that part. So I was like, I can go into bookkeeping, or, you know, I can then just find somewhere else. And that's it. I think I burned that bridge then after that. I said, you know what? I'm just going all full in. And I know it sounds crazy, but I feel like when you assess the risk and just go all full in and you have no other option but to make it work, you figure it out. It was hard though, because I'm coming from a professional, you know, setting, structure. I even had an IT department. I cried a lot when I realized I had to figure out my own IT issues, you know, so it was kind of like, you know, and then I was cleaning the bathrooms, mopping the floor, you know, and I was like, dang, like, is this the right thing?
Yeah.
But I stuck to it or with it, and I kept focusing on like, okay, but this is my vision. You know, my vision in 3-5 years is that our business will look like this. And so I think as long as you're confident in your ability to make it happen, and you have a vision of where you're going, then you'll know that the temporary struggle is that, it's just temporary. And yeah, I think I will never go back though. I mean, it's crazy how now I'm like, oh, like, there's a lot of more stress and more pressure. I mean, 2020 was a year that really, like, you know when somebody punches you in the stomach and knocks the air out of you? That's how I felt. But I was like, okay, I cannot stay here. I gotta become resourceful. So yeah, I think now, if you need it for financial purposes, then create a plan. Okay, I'm gonna save this much money and I'm gonna make this move. For me, it was really helpful that they did let us go because they did have to pay me, you know, for letting me go. Like they had a special bonus or whatever. So that was like kind of like, oh, this is a blessing. Yeah, but I'm so glad I did it though. And now my coworkers or ex-coworkers come all the time. They're like, oh my God, we thought you were crazy. Yeah. Yes.
When it came to like building your team, how did you go about determining like how many employees you needed, and then like how much their wage would be?
So that has been my biggest challenge. It's dealing with teams because in my previous life, I did not want to deal with teams or people. I wanted to be responsible for myself. But in the business, it's different. So it depends on what your team, you know, what it demands. So first, it starts like, how much are you worth? because you are the CEO, and that's something I had to understand. So for a while, I held back the growth of my team because I thought I could do it, nobody could do it like me. And then, in one of my meetings with, I can't remember which one, but it said, like, if you're the captain of the ship, you're worth so much more. Like, you should be working on your business, not in the business. When I had that mindset switch, that's when I started allocating, okay, I need this. And it was more about going through what I do every day. So should I be answering emails? No. Which I thought at that time, yes. Like, nobody can talk to the customer like I do, right? But then I discovered that, hey, I can create templates. And now I have templates for everything. I have templates for my email, for Facebook, for Instagram. You get automated messages, and you're being handled right away. And then if there is, for certain questions. But then if you ask about something more specific, then I do have someone that is in there monitoring those messages and replying. So that's something I shouldn't, you should not be doing. What was another thing? Believe it or not, I love the bookkeeping. But then I realized that, again, I'm more thinking about the strategy of my business and what are we gonna, how we're gonna increase the ticket average for purchase. So I hire someone for $12 an hour to actually do the daily bookkeeping because we do have a lot of volume. So although I love that piece of my business, I said, okay, the more tedious thing, I'm gonna delegate. So make a list of the things that you do every day and see what things you can delegate for a cheaper price. Because I promise you, like, the work that you do as the artist and as the creator of your business is worth so much more. Does that help? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and right now, it's interesting that you asked me that question because right now I'm going through an exercise with Chuchos that is a little different. I'm actually overstaffed now there. So Chuchos has been very different than Farmhouse. So Farmhouse, slowly I had to let go and bring people in. With Chuchos, we had such a rapid growth that we just hired like crazy. And now what I'm doing is actually going in, and I did hire someone to do this because I was not able to do it. But this person is going in, and they're literally looking like, how much does it take to cut cilantro? How much time? How much time does it take to cut, onion? How much does it take to make the tortilla bread? And then we are doing like the hours, and then determining, okay, we need 3 people, this time from this time, and this is how much we're gonna pay them. So it really depends, but the main thing is if you do it all, you're gonna limit the growth of your business. So as soon as you can, invest in someone else, and then just do research on what's that position worth. So my team at the Farmhouse does not make the same that my team at Chuchos. And it's just more about what's in the market and how we stay competitive. Also find other ways to incentivize them. It doesn't have to be only the pay rate, although we try to pay as good as we can, but we have also team outings. We recently even closed, we're open 7 days a week, but we did close 1 day earlier, and we took him to do an activity, we took him to dinner. It did cost us a couple thousands, believe it or not, but it was so important to give back to the team, especially because we had a very busy summer. And now we're working on getting a 401k in place. We already have health insurance benefits. So there are other things that you can offer that is attractive to our employees. The last question, yes.
Okay, that's a lot of pressure. You said that your facility wasn't necessarily ready when you guys first opened, but you have always been paid by your business since the first week. How did that happen?
So there's 2 stages. We bought the property first for our own. Okay, so in there we just, bought it and said we're gonna renovate the house and we're gonna rent the other buildings and the land and everything. So at that stage we were just purchasing. When we decide to do the farmhouse, and my husband says, why are we gonna rent? Like, we have a business, we have this, the hardest part for our business is to find a location. Let's try this paint and sifting. And so I was like, okay. By the time that I started doing the plan, I found out about my job, and then it just put me on, I said, okay, what are my bills? Because I understood that it couldn't pay me what my other job paid me. But I said, okay, realistically, what is my bills? What are the things that I must do? That for me is a little bit of savings too. And then I said, okay, so this is what this business needs to pay me right from the get-go. And I mean, so when you know that number, you know how much traffic you have to drive. And that's what our focus was. We knew that every week we had to drive 200 people with an average of $40 a week. I'm sorry, per person. And that was gonna give us a number to pay us, because it was my husband and I, it was both of our salary. Our team, which was another 3 people, and then, you know, pay the loan, the electric, and pay everything else. And that's what we needed. So when you figure out your numbers of, first, like how much your business is gonna pay you, you need to know the minimum that your business can pay you, so that you can live and pay your bills and have peace of mind. And then you need to figure out your bills for the whole business. And from that number, you need to figure out, okay, how many clients do I need? The minimum, the break even. I don't make money, I don't lose money, but everything gets covered. And then, you focus mainly on driving that traffic. So you go on social media, you put Facebook ads, whatever it is that your marketing strategy is, which you have to determine during your business plan, when you're building your business plan. You go after that strategy, but now you know the numbers. So if you know that you are having, I mean, our first week we did have like 100 people, you know, but we did start with at least a month of reserves. And yeah, then we started from there. And then the next week, but we were always focused on that number. Did we get to that number? And then we did the exact same thing with the shutdown. When we took the business online, we knew that daily we needed to sell 20 kits. So you need to know exactly what you need to do to generate the money that your business and you need. If you don't know that number, then you're going literally like this. If you don't know that you need 20 people daily, or 200 people per week, or 800 people per month, like you need to know exactly that. That's the secret. Anytime we do anything, we know exactly what our effort is, and that's how we can measure if we're on track or if we are off track. Thank you so much, you guys. This was great. Congratulations for being here, and yeah, good luck with the program.
Okay, and then we're gonna take like a 2-minute bathroom break and really quickly do an interview with Thaime, just to ask some questions, just to hear a little bit more. So like 2 minutes, just get some refreshments, and we'll get you out by 1.